Hi, this is Spencer Colgan from Spencer Colgan is Wallpaper, and I wanted to show you an alternative technique to the removal of wallpaper. And so I just recently posted one video on wallpaper removal when the wallpaper is, as about 80% of my wallpaper removals are, and that is problem-free, whereby you just have to pull off the shell of the paper and then literally rub the paper backing off of it, provided that the wall is properly prepared when it's prepped for the wallpaper installation. But now here's some things that you'll see often. Sometimes homeowners don't know what they're doing. And so they mean well, they go to the store, they ask somebody who's been working there a month, hey, what do I put on my walls? Oh, use this, and they sell them a product. Or they say, you can just hang it up over there. And so I am in a job where I'm seeing different levels of preparation in the same bathroom. Let me give you an example. The wallpaper up there came down fairly easy, okay? All over there, it actually came down easily. But it appears that somebody different was preparing these walls, or perhaps the same person on a different day, and they didn't use the same technique. And so the ease with which the wallpaper comes down can vary even in the same room. And that's what I'm facing now. So I wanted to show you how to go about removing the wallpaper in what I called in the first video, like a step B. Or plan B, okay? And I want to show you this. I'm going to set up my camera so that you can see this. Actually, that's not good enough. So, let's see. That should do it. So, I really don't like when people use those little gadgets that scrape your wall. Okay, and they are the Tigers, okay? It's a nifty little name for a product that's very expensive, and what I don't like about that is the gadget cannot withstand the heat that's generated from the friction of going around in circles. As a wallpaper installer, you want to go quickly, and that tool will snap after it reaches a certain temperature. So literally in one wall, if you go quickly on the wall trying to perforate all of the shell of your wallpaper, you can snap those little perforating blades in about 10 minutes time. That's why I don't like it, and you can accomplish the same goal with a $6 tool that you use over and over and over again and for various tasks. So let me just show you. Without pressing too hard, I'm just putting basic pressure on the shell of this wallpaper. Why am I doing this? What I'm looking to do is to remove more wallpaper quicker. And by crisscrossing the lines that I'm making on the shell, I'm making little checkers of wallpaper strips. So now, instead of just hitting the seams, one every 20 inches or so, I now created a bunch of seams on the wallpaper, didn't I? And how did I do that? By perforating the wall covering in a crisscross fashion every couple of inches back and forth. And you're breaching the adhesion of the wallpaper. And you're making it easier for the water to get beyond this shell, which is what's protecting the glue underneath it. It's what's keeping the paper underneath it intact. We have to compromise this by soaking it. And so again, you can't expect this to happen in a minute. You're applying water, and I like doing this with my hand to rub it in, because the water starts evaporating on the shell. This is rubbing it in, and it's forcing it in over and over again. And what happens is the water disperses underneath the shell and goes a little bit beyond an eighth of an inch. You keep doing this, before you know it, it's an inch under the paper, and it expedites the job. Okay, so let's see where we're at. Your wallpaper should always feel saturated with water. It shouldn't feel dry. If it's dry, you gotta keep hitting it with water. I usually tell people 4 times. You gotta hit it 4 times before you can even think about taking it down, so that people don't get impatient and start gouging their walls thinking this is never gonna come down. Once you do that, you run the risk of going into a lot more expenses that may not be necessary if you just had patience. So I want to show you what I'm doing here. I just got a good piece. Let me show you. Oops, sorry about that. Let me just show you what I'm doing. Look at this piece here. Look. Now this was caused by me perforating it, and you can see my cut line there, right? You see how it's a nice sharp line. But still, I was able to get underneath that paper, which was otherwise impossible. There was no seam here. And so, even though it may look like it's taking a lot of time, I've created a bunch of breaches in the surface whereby I can get my water underneath it and get this paper off so that we can get on with the job. And so this is plan B. I recommend this as only plan B. This is not for you to use as a first method of removing wallpaper. Why? Because it involves scratching the wall. Necessarily, we are at least risking scratching the wall. So in this plan B, we are prepared to prep the walls with a skim coat. And that is simply a layer of joint compound to fill in any scratches or nicks that we put on the surface. Otherwise, if you don't do plan B, you can't get this paper off. Okay? So now, let's say you don't have any fingernails, and I like this because it doesn't gouge the walls. But this is a more aggressive approach. You take a 6-inch taping knife and you start pivoting it back and forth around the paper, lifting the paper with this 6-inch knife. And so you can get under it more. You see how it gets under that paper? Okay, and that's why we cut that paper in strips, so that we can get that wide 6-inch knife under there. And otherwise, we can't lift the paper. So there you have it. Now you see it's white. The paper is white. So we're going to wet it again with our water. And saturate it once again so that we can get it off more easily. And that's the way we do it. Yes, cutting the wallpaper, making it into strips, does cause the fact that we can't get large pieces off at once. But this is only when we're having difficulty removing it. It's better to get a little off at a time than none off at a time. Okay? It's very easy to make big mistakes when you're removing wallpaper, to start out with plan B or plan C when you don't have to. Doing this slowly is the best way to go. And then when your first plan and you've tried to wet it sufficiently, doesn't work, then you go to the next plan. And when that doesn't work, you go to the plan C, which is total destruction of the shell. You're scraping it off. You might even have to sand it off. Or you might want to consider laminating your sheetrock and just going right over it, but most people can't do that, especially in a residential setting, especially in bathrooms, because your tiles won't accommodate the lift of another layer of sheetrock. There you have it. This is Spencer Colgan from Spencer Colgan is Wallpaper, coming to you with Plan B on removing your wallpaper. Remember, this is not the first step you would take. If you want to see the first step, I just did a video prior to this, which is Plan A, which is the least harmful to your walls of removing wallpaper, and that just involves your fingers and hot water. This is Plan B. We're going to do a little damage to the wall to save time, and it works out like that. Thanks for watching. Click on like, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you on the next one.